This week we start reading the book of Vayikra. In the very first pasuk of the Parshas Vayikra, Aleph Aleph, we read, Vayikra el Moshe, Hashem called to Moshe. The famous question is asked, why is the word Vayikra written with a small aleph? The Baal Haturim explains, Moshe lo ratza לכתוב אלא ויקר. Moshe, being humble, did not wish to write the word Vayikra, implying that Hashem directly called to him. Kederech na'emar bebela'am. He was hoping that it would be rather Vayikar, like it says in Bamidbar, Kaf Gimel, Posuk Dalad, Vayikar Elokim el Bibel'am. Why did Moshe want to do this? Ke'elu lo nirאה lo Hashem elo במקרה. Moshe wanted to write Vayikar rather than Vayikra because Vayikar implies a chance occurrence. ואמר lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem said, לכתוב גם באלף, please add in the letter aleph, וכתבה קטנה, and as a compromise, Moshe wrote the aleph small. There's another place in Tanakh, in Divrei Hayamim, the very first pasuk of Divrei Hayamim, where the aleph is written extra large, and that is for the name of Odom Harishon. And that is to be understood that Odom had too much high self-esteem. His ego was too inflated because he was the pinnacle of God's creation. That is why his name is written with a large aleph. According to the Baal HaTanya, that big aleph represents the arrogance of Odom. And that arrogance of Odom caused him to sin in the Garden of Eden. Although for a person it's necessary to be aware of one's positive qualities, Odom allowed his self-esteem to degenerate into conceit, and this caused his downfall. Moshe, by contrast, was the leader of Bnei Israel and had a special, unique relationship with Hashem, that he was modest. In fact, we read in Devorim, Perek Lamed Daled Posuk Yud, Lo kom novi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe, asher yoda Hashem ponim el ponim. That Moshe had a special relationship with Hashem, and no prophet arose in Israel like Moshe that knew Hashem face to face. But we also know from Bamidbar Yud Beis Posuk Gimel, we read V'ha'ish Moshe onov ma'od mikol ha'odom, asher al panei ha'adama, that Moshe was exceedingly humble from all human beings that were on the face of the earth. The word onov is spelled ayin nun vov, and it's missing a yud, and I'll come back to that later. How is it possible that Moshe could be so humble when he had a special relationship with Hashem? True humility does not mean denigrating oneself. Moshe rectified Odom's mistake. He recognized his own greatness, but he nevertheless remained humble. His humility was not self-delusional, but it was because he recognized that his greatness came from Hashem. He understood that true humility does not mean denigrating oneself, but also notice everything comes from Hashem and that there's virtue in other people. We are all the spiritual heirs of Odom and Moshe. When we feel inadequate, we must remember that we are like Odom. We are a big aleph. When there are thoughts in our head like, well, who am I? I can't do this. And if that deters us from our task, we have to recall that Odom was created alone, and each one of us should realize, for us, the whole world was created. The Mishnah Sanhedrin, Daled Hey, says, Lefichach kol echad ve'echad chayav lomar bishvili nivra ha'olam. That just for me, the whole world was created. At the same time, we must recall that we are like Moshe and ensure that our self-assurance doesn't develop into conceit. In fact, even the humble gnat was created before us in creation. A few parshas ago, in Parshas Kisisa, we read about how Moshe came down from Har Sinai with a light emanating from his head. In Shemot Lamed Daled Posuk Kaftes, we read, Vayhi beredes Moshe min ha'har, u'shnei luchos ha'edos biyad Moshe, b'hirdaso min ha'har, u'Moshe lo yada ki karan ar panav. That Moshe didn't realize that his face was emanating with some sort of luminescence. Where did this luminescence come from, and what did it represent? The Mishnah Rabbah Shemos Mem Zayin Posuk Vav tells us, Ad shehayo kosev b'kolomos nishtaya kamia. Moshe was writing the Torah with some sort of ink, and there was a little drop left over. Ve'heviru al rosho mimenu na'aso lo karnei ha'od. Moshe literally wiped his brow with the last little bit of ink, and that is how his face became luminescent, and he had this special Koran Or. Could it be that Hashem miscalculated the amount of ink that Moshe needed to write the Torah? The Or HaChaim suggests that when Hashem told Moshe to write the words V'ha'ish Moshe onov mikol ha'adam, he felt unable to spell the word onov as it should have been spelt, so he missed out the letter Yud. Again, the word Vayikra, where Moshe did not want to make out that Hashem spoke directly to him, but rather that Hashem had happened to speak to him. Vayikar, it was like a happenstance. So Moshe didn't use the extra ink to make it a normal size aleph. So that little tiny minuscule amount of ink for the tiny Yud and from making the aleph smaller, those two ideas brought together. The ink that was left in Moshe's pen should have gone to write the normal sized aleph or the Vov, the Yud in the word onov. Instead, it became the corona, the shining light to adorn the humblest of men. Moshe's very act of humility to make it appear as though Hashem chanced upon him, rather than actively seeking to communicate with him, became Moshe's badge of honor. And Moshe's humility is something we can all learn from. We have to balance that with the idea that Adam was created alone. And when we feel despondent, we should think to ourselves, Hashem created Adam alone, and the world is created for me, and I can do anything. But we have to remember, Hashem has given us the talents and the tools to be able to do anything. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos.